if you're interested in a compromised SUV with a synthetic driving experience, questionable quality, and an elevated rear cargo space for a battery pack, please consider the Land Cruiser, Sequoia, or new 4Runner. Or perhaps you prefer a 4-cylinder pickup truck built entirely out of Mexico that comes with a self-destructing transmission, rear brake line issues, and spotty fit and finish. Get that Tacoma. Or perhaps you live life totally on the wild side. I suggest spending $80,000 for a twin-turbo V6 hybridized pickup truck known as the Toyota Tundra. That one comes with a sea of plastic on the interior, a turning radius only to be compared with a dump truck, and a faulty main crankshaft bearing that can grenade your motor at any moment. Hey YouTube, Untamed here. So I think many of us can agree that Toyota has effectively ignored their loyal customer base. They've ignored true Toyota enthusiasts, and now they're pumping out these garbage vehicles that nobody truly asked for and nobody truly wanted. Many of their vehicles coming across the assembly lines today are neutered or castrated versions of what once was. In today's video, I'm not just going to make it a bashing video. I am going to highlight the stats, facts, and figures that really show a clear picture of the sticky predicament that Toyota finds themselves in now. And I'm going to offer up my personal suggestions and advice, what I believe the company can do to make positive course corrections and get back to re-earning the support of their enthusiasts. So stick with me as we talk through it all. So what has Toyota's core values been? They've always revolved around reliability, simplicity, and affordability. Dang near every vehicle that you can buy from the brand or the company fell within those categories, but not anymore. I think we can all agree that the new generation Toyotas are wildly expensive. They do not offer that same level of peace of mind when it comes to reliability, and well, that simplicity is no longer there. You're surrounded with creature comforts and technology that, well, those are just more things to break on you as we move forward. It's just a pretty synthetic driving experience being offered from so many other vehicles, so many other nameplates that once offered a very raw, a very visceral driving experience. It's no longer there. That new Land Cruiser, totally neutered, right? I mean, we had a 5.7 liter V8 in that 200 series Land Cruiser that was previously offered within the US, the most reliable body-on-frame platform possible. But now, that new generation with that 2.4 liter 4-cylinder turbo hybridized option, the iForce Max, that is such a synthetic driving experience. People are wildly underwhelmed with it, and rightfully so. We get that in the Tacoma now. We get the twin turbo V6 option in the new Tundra or the iForce Max hybridized option. Why are we strapping battery packs to everything? A lot of people will argue it's because of EPA mandates, right? The government mandates are forcing the hands of Toyota. That is inaccurate. That is completely inaccurate. Let me paint a clearer picture for you. They are just incentivized less to continue producing naturally aspirated, more, a little less fuel efficient, barely less fuel efficient, naturally aspirated platforms. They're just incentivized less to do that. So effectively, Toyota just chased green credits. They chase these carbon credits because regardless of how well they sell, they'll still get these government handouts that really line the pocketbooks of Toyota corporate. And they say it's all for fuel efficiency, right? They're not getting much more miles to the gallon in these newer, smaller displacement options, right? They're not. They're just maybe getting 1 or 2 miles to the gallon more, but it's not enough to justify making that type of shift because that reliability goes out the window. Instead of a vehicle lasting 250,000 miles or more, well, you're going to be lucky if you get to that 120, 150,000 mile range with those turbos strapped to it. And well, God knows how much you're going to get out of that hybridized iForce Max. Who knows what those battery packs are truly going to do over the test of time, right? Nobody really knows that yet. But it certainly does not offer that same level of confidence comparatively to like that 4-liter naturally aspirated V6 we found within the 5th generation Toyota 4Runner up until 2024. And same goes for the 3.5-liter naturally aspirated V6 that we found in the previous generation Toyota Tacoma. And don't even get me started on the Tundra. That 5.7-liter V8 was bulletproof in that previous generation Tundra. And now we see that new twin-turbo V6 Tundra, such a huge disappointment. And we get that main crankshaft bearing issue, that large safety recall. It really gave a black eye to the brand. I know it's kind of a harsh way to put it, but I can't help but feel like Toyota has taken a page out of Ford and GM's playbook when it comes to pumping out these throwaway vehicles. Vehicles that Americans can buy and drive to 3 to 5 years before things start really going wrong with them. And then, well, at that point, instead of trying to fix it, they'll just trade it in and get a new vehicle. Those throwaway vehicles is becoming more and more prevalent in today's economy, right? These lesser quality options that still come with a pretty hefty price tag. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And go ahead and ask any mechanic. My brother, he is a master mechanic and has been throughout the last 15 years. And he would be the first to tell you that whenever you distance yourself from a naturally aspirated platform and you lessen the displacement size of a motor and you strap these large turbos to it and try to hype up the horsepower and torque figures, you're just overstressing that motor. And well, that longevity is no longer there. You may get better performance numbers, but again, you're not going to run that thing at 250,000 miles plus like you would be able to with its predecessors of that naturally aspirated V6 and naturally aspirated V8 that we found from Toyota. You just no longer get that when you overhype these smaller displacement motors, little wind-up toys at the end of the day. For those of you who don't know, it was April 1st of 2023 that Mr. Sato took over as CEO of Toyota and Mr. Akio Toyoda stepped down. And well, if you ask me and ask a lot of people, it has felt like a constant April Fool's joke ever since. Another mistake Toyota has made as of late is they've been following political winds far too much, and they've allowed their own politics to shape the type of vehicles that they've been pushing out here within the North American market. They've done it far too much. To be fair, they've always kind of needed to do this to some degree, because unlike Ford, unlike GM, unlike these domestic vehicle manufacturers, Toyota will not get a bailout. The United States government will not bail out Toyota at large within North America. So if they start to crumble and go belly up, well, they're out of luck. So really we saw Toyota leaning into the whole green energy movement within the US. I say within the US on purpose because when you look at other countries and you look at the types of vehicles that are still being offered and delivered to the other countries, it's very clear that the whole green energy movement isn't a huge priority for Toyota corporate at large. The big company, Toyota North America, they're leaning into it. They're letting politics really drive the ship a little bit because we saw them lean into it so much, getting those government handouts, they're cashing in on them. Because why wouldn't they, right? They're going to get those handouts if they just make these smaller displacement motors and they hybridize things, they put that H by it, they're going to get handouts. So why wouldn't they? They are a company at the end of the day and they want to make profit, but it's served to their own detriment, right? Now we're seeing their loyal consumers pretty upset with them. So Toyota very recently went from supporting these very liberal DEI initiatives, supporting pride parades, endorsing and sponsoring these pride parades, sponsoring these youth transgender initiatives, to immediately jumping and paying and donating to the Trump administration as soon as he won the election. So they definitely followed these political winds, and I personally believe that has proven to their detriment within the last few years. They need to stop doing that. Don't make it about politics. Just make great, reliable, affordable vehicles. Now, it goes without saying, but Japan has been a wonderful friend and ally to the United States for many, many years. For the first time ever, Japanese Prime Minister Ishiba met with President Trump just the other day, and they came together and really solidified a joint venture moving forward. That joint venture really focuses on gas, right? Oil and gas. Not so much as green energy movement of the past, if you will, this last few years. So Toyota truly does need to go back to the drawing board and shift their focus, reshift their focus if they want to be in alignment. And I can't say I blame Toyota for chasing those green credits of the past because they're just trying to look for a nearsighted way out. They're trying to line their pocketbooks and really get out of debt. They hold the largest debt worldwide of any company of over $250 billion. They are indebted the most. That's outside of banking institutions. Volkswagen and Ford are among the top 5 as well, but Toyota, well, they got the #1 spot. And as a public affairs professional in my real life outside of YouTube here, I do find it kind of upsetting that Toyota North America, the PR teams here within the States, they really cater to and reward yes men behavior from social media influencers. Obviously, we have a lot of automotive journalists who their job is to be journalists. They're supposed to be unbiased. But a lot of social media influencers and YouTubers, they really hype up the brand. They'll continuously hype up the brand and they're afraid to be critical of it, truly critical of Toyota. And I was early on, and because I was critical of the brand, I was magically no longer receiving invites to their all expense paid trips. And well, I don't blame people for continuously supporting and hyping up the brand because they don't want to lose the hand, they don't want to bite the hand that feeds them, right? They don't want to lose that carrot being dangled in front of them. So I can't say I blame them, but yours truly here, I no longer am invited because I am critical of the brand. Toyota saw a 5.4% increase in total liabilities from the start of 2024 to 2025 here. They expect to see a 12% decrease in operating profits throughout the rest of 2025. And when I say that out loud, it shouldn't come as too big of a surprise because when you look at all of Toyota's lineup, much of their models are brand new, freshly redesigned options, fully redesigned options. And with each redesigned option comes a fresh, expensive R&D, research and development. That costs a company quite a bit. We see those operating profits go up tremendously as the vehicles become longer in the tooth, right? With that 5th generation Toyota 4Runner, it was out since 2009 and ran all the way till 2024. Same goes with like the 200 series Line Cruiser. Toyota is pretty notorious for living up to their Kaizen approach. That's making constant, continual improvements toward perfection within their models. And it isn't until the end of the vehicle's run that they begin to see those huge profit margins on it. They become cash cows for the company. And we definitely saw that with that 4Runner and Land Cruiser and Tundra. Unlike what we see from domestic vehicle manufacturers, right? Like GMC, Ford, they're constantly swapping out engines, changing the engines totally, doing a body design change, a facelift up front every couple of years. They're constantly making these larger overhauls, which ultimately diminish one's ability to buy that with full peace of mind with reliability, right? That's no longer gonna offer that. Now the brand new, fully redesigned Toyota Tacoma here in 2024 saw 191,000, just under 191,000 vehicles sold throughout 2024. Generally speaking, the Tacoma will sell between 215 to 250,000 units each year. In 2023, they sold 237,000. Now, I want to be fair in this video. Many of you guys know that the new Tacoma didn't begin hitting dealership lots until mid-February. Mid-February, early March is when a lot of dealerships were actually beginning to receive them. So, that first 2 months of the year, is that the main reason why we saw such a big dip in sales? No. I would confidently tell you no. When you look at third quarter and fourth quarter sales, we saw between an 8 and 11% drop in sales of that new Tacoma, which is pretty pathetic to say about a fully new redesigned option, especially of an iconic nameplate for the Tacoma. It's a brand new option, it's the new cheese. You would have expected it to fly off the shelf, but that did not happen. In fact, quite the contrary. What did we see? We saw that first wave of them sell off pretty quick within the first few months, but then that third quarter and fourth quarter of the year, there was very little interest in it. For the first time in Toyota's history, that first year of introducing a full new redesigned pickup truck between the Tundra and Tacoma, they saw a sharp decline in sales, right? And they were having to discount them. They're having to discount them $6,000 to $8,000 off in many parts of the country. Now, I know a few are gonna pop up and say, not here in California, not here in Florida, not here in Washington. Of course, there's gonna be anomalies out there, but holistically speaking, many dealerships were struggling bad to move that inventory. So they're having to cut off $6,000 in order to even have a chance at selling those things. Same goes for the Tundra, of course, right? We're now seeing $8,000 to $12,000 off dang near every single trim, with the exception of maybe the TRD Pro. But even then, I see $6,000 to $8,000 off pretty regularly on the Facebook pages that I follow. So even the top trim examples that once went for a markup during the pandemic and really the last few years, they're now going with huge discounts and they still can't move that metal. Toyota loves to beat their chest and brag about having the best-selling midsize pickup truck within the US. I personally don't believe it's something worth bragging about because they massively overproduce it compared to its competition. You know, just to throw you the figures, 191,000 just under Tacoma sold in 2024. There were 130,000 Ford Mavericks sold in 24. There were 97,000 Chevy Colorados and 67,500 Nissan Frontiers. You know, they're massively overproducing the Tacoma compared to its competition. If you throw a bowl of spaghetti at the dartboard, it's going to be no shock that you hit the target. One huge mistake of Toyota Corporate throughout the last few years is they failed to hold their dealerships accountable for their greedy tactics. We saw so many Toyota dealerships within the US charging greedy markups, $5,000, $10,000, $15,000 or more over MSRP on desirable trimmed vehicles. A lot of the TRD Pros were coming with markups, or addendums was what they'll refer to them as. Toyota had an opportunity to hold those dealerships accountable. Because what are they doing? Those dealerships are tarnishing that brand's reputation. We have so many people who bought a Toyota for years from the same dealership, and then when they went in to go buy a TRD Pro or something nice during the pandemic of the last few years really, they were met with a markup. And I guarantee it, those people who were charged a greedy markup, they're not returning to Toyota in general. They was certainly not going back to that dealership, but they may have just left the brand because of that nasty experience. Which begs the question, what is it that Toyota could have done in response to these greedy tactics by dealerships? They could have affected their reallocation rates. The number of allocated vehicles going to that dealership could have been impacted. Toyota could drive that, and they have that decision space. So if they caught word of a dealership charging $10,000 over MSRP, they could affect how many TRD Pros that dealership got in the future. So let's say they got 10 4Runner TRD Pros or 10 Tundra TRD Pros one year, but they were charging markups throughout that year. Maybe next year, or perhaps even next quarter, let's give them 2. Let's give them 2 TRD Pro Tundras instead of 10. Enough with the negativity though. I do believe that Toyota does have time to make the positive course corrections necessary to get back to their roots. So, like my brother likes to remind me, I'm not the type of doctor that can actually help people, but rather, I do have a PhD in industrial and organizational psychology. I do love this stuff. I've dug into it a lot, I've done a ton of research. I do think I have a few pieces of advice that Toyota could follow that can get them back to their glory days. Number one, let's shift our focus back to reliability, simplicity, and affordability. If Toyota made that their mantra and vision moving forward for their entire lineup, I tell you what, especially with how tight money is for most Americans right now, really worldwide, they would make such a positive headway toward earning back, re-earning their loyal customers of the past. Now, it goes without saying that most Americans are very, very proud to build vehicles that are intended for the US market. And well, the same goes for the Toyota Tacoma, the Toyota Tundra, right? We build that out of San Antonio, Texas. The Tacoma, though, being built entirely out of Mexico, is a big flop. Obviously, they're going to get impacted by tariffs to some degree. And if they're not selling right now, good luck trying to hike up 25% more on those price tags. I mean, that really is company suicide. So they really should consider moving production entirely back to the US, because Americans take pride in building their vehicles intended for their neighbor. Now, this next one is huge, and a lot of you are going to think it's far-fetched. I personally believe it is within the realm of possibility. Toyota should offer that 5.7-liter V8 as an option in the current generation Tundra, and they should offer that naturally aspirated 4-liter V6 as an option in the current generation, now new 6th generation 4Runner, just as an option. They can keep the 4-cylinder turbocharged iForce and iForce Max. They can keep that as an option, of course, in the Land Cruiser, in the Tacoma, in the 4Runner, but also offer up that naturally aspirated V6, just as an option, okay? And most companies, they generally do this. They'll wean off of their previous engines. They'll kind of wean off for 1 or 2 years while still offering it as an option. Toyota went cold turkey on it, and that definitely proved to their detriment, right? But offering the V6 as an option, offering that naturally aspirated V8 as an option in the Tundra, they're going to see a huge influx, a huge surge of their loyal customers coming back to the brand and applauding them for that. And don't get me wrong, I do firmly believe that the hybridization and more fuel-efficient options are certainly important for Toyota at large. But I don't think they need to be within all their trucks and their SUVs, right? It needs to be more catered toward the Toyota Prius, toward the Camry. It makes sense in those platforms. The 4Runner, the Land Cruiser, the Tundra, Tacoma, not so much. I mean, just look at the values of the previous generation Toyota Tundra, previous generation Tacoma, already the 5th generation 4Runners, and that 200 series Land Cruiser. The values of those have skyrocketed since they've gone away, and since we pivoted to these smaller displacement turbocharged hybrid platforms. People miss reliability. They want that, and they're going to long for that for years to come until Toyota decides to make the shift back to it. Toyota engineers went into building that previous generation Toyota Land Cruiser to last 25 years plus with minimal maintenance and minimal issue. Can you even imagine that being the case for the current generation Land Cruiser within the US? No way in heck. Toyota needs to reshift their focus to reputation over revenue. Recently, we saw Toyota chasing those green credits, chasing the handouts, really to try to bump their bottom line and really just only appease their shareholders in general. That's not what we need. We need them to focus on the customer and really focus on a customer, right? What does the customer want? What do they need? What do they want to see from the company? If they shift their focus to that and get away from that nearsighted business model of lining their pockets with these throwaway vehicles and chasing green credits, they're going to find themselves in a much better position here in 20 years. They're going to re-earn the loyal customer base that they had just recently. And if the last few years taught us anything, that is EVs are not the way. We're not ready for EVs. The infrastructure is not there. We want it as an option, but we can't lean into it and we can't put all eggs into that basket. Especially with our current administration, there is a clear focus on oil and gas moving forward, right? Making that a better option for everybody. So if there's ever a time to shift back to offering a naturally aspirated platform for the sake of sustaining the reputation of a brand, it's now. So it is not impossible. We see the new CEO of Stellantis already declaring that they're going to be bringing back for the foreseeable future their Hemi V8s. So it is possible. Just because it went away doesn't mean it can't come back if it really is for the betterment of the company. And for Toyota, it truly is. And Toyota, if you lose money by reintroducing that 5.7-liter V8 into the Tundra and that 4-liter V6 into the 6th generation 4Runner, if you lose money on it, feel free to send me the bill. I guarantee it, you will not. And to our senior executives here at Toyota North America, you need to make sure that you're listening to all Americans, the feedback of all Americans, not just the Americans living over in California. Let's make sure we're listening to the folks in Oklahoma, New Jersey, Texas, Arkansas. Okay, maybe you can skip Arkansas. That's just between us. And can you even imagine bringing a 70s series Toyota Land Cruiser option, a diesel option to the United States? Murdered. And perhaps most importantly, we touched on it a little bit, but leave politics out of it. Just focus on building amazing, reliable vehicles that are affordable. Imagine that. Focus on that. Focus on your customer, your loyal customers. And I guarantee it, if you do that, the shareholders will eventually be very happy. The stock will go up. You will be in a much better position. And well, if you're able to hold your dealerships accountable, please do that. Right? If you see them, catch wind of them charging markups, hold them accountable. Don't give them a bunch of reallocated vehicles or more allocations. Don't do that. They don't deserve that. they're going to take advantage of your loyal customer base and ruin or tarnish your brand's reputation, they don't deserve any of that. So I'll wrap up the video there, guys. I am hopeful for Toyota. I want them to make a positive shift back to focusing on the customer, their loyal customer, right? Don't chase credits, don't chase handouts, but just focus on them. And if they do that, and they put reliability, simplicity, and affordability, put those tenets first, they're going to shift back to the original core values of the brand. And they're going to be able to lean into that Kaizen approach of that continuous improvement toward perfection that we all love to see from Toyota. So I'll wrap up the video there. I sincerely appreciate you all taking the time to tune into these videos. If you find any kind of value in this whatsoever, please consider liking and subscribing. And really, let me know what your thoughts are on all this. Am I missing something here? Am I being naive to even consider some of these ideas here? Let me know in the comment section. Thanks for watching. Until next time.